His teacher was paralysis. Her teacher was addiction. With love, they found each other. You are here now for the Conscious Couple podcast.
And we are live.
Again, we're not live. We're not.
We're live. We are live right now in this moment.
We are.
We are.
We are that.
We are live and coming at you for round
Really
two.
gotta get you like a boom mic. This is kind of.
I promised
ghetto.
that I would get the boom mic, but I have not yet.
Hey,
so
man.
we have this, and this is what
It's
we're going to
true.
do for now.
Sure.
You know, if you made it through the first one, congratulations.
Yeah, really.
We are so happy for you.
And if you're here watching this number 2, I only have one question for you. What is wrong with you?
I think that's
Do you not
a
have
fair question.
better things to do
I really
to
do.
listen to us?
I know. I mean, come on. Right?
Well, we have experience, honey. We
do.
have lots of things. We
do have a lot of experience. I will tell you that. I don't
We
know.
have
you know,
funniness.
Some could say wisdom from the experiences. We do have a lot of knowledge. We do have a lot of experiences.
We definitely have a
made
lot
us
of
on the wisdom,
experiences.
we'll say.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we decided,
And we have a lot of what people want. Probably, I would say,
because
totally,
we have
totally.
a conscious relationship. Is
We
that
do.
why?
Well, I think that's what
Yeah.
people. I mean, I would ask that really to anybody. If you could have
Great question.
anything, what's the most important thing to you? Is it money? So is it $1 million? Is it $10 million? Is it to have full 100% health? Or is it to have a relationship that leaves you breathless?
I have that. Yes, sir.
Well, you
All
have
right.
that because I have held a pillow over your face where
That's true.
you have been
It's true.
breathless.
You know, I realized just now that
I have not done that, by the way.
no. So in honor of, you know, my online program is called The Authentic Life Blueprint. We always talk about we're just real people, right? You and me, we're just real. I think that's why we're different than a lot of things that are out there right now because we're just real. We're just us. We don't pretend to be
Yeah, I don't need
anybody
to
else. So,
measure up.
in honor of authenticity, I thought, what a great opportunity for us to really lay some roots and foundation for this entire podcast than to make this one about it's all inside of you. Or some would say your thoughts create your reality. And to really take you guys down a rabbit hole, to fully come out of the spiritual closet and tell you guys that this is all not real. It's an illusion, which some of you may go, oh boy, who are we following? Who are we listening to? So I ask from the beginning that you just give us some of your time today to go down this rabbit hole with us, because why not? What better things do you have to do? I mean, really, they do. They probably have better things. But
Definitely.
I invite you to come into this conversation with as an open mind as you can, because I think it is.
But I think
we'll have a
this
lot
is
of fun
based,
here.
this is all based on real events
Sure.
that happened.
Yeah.
Real events that happened that led to the question of, is this all just inside me?
Yeah. So, you know, in honor of authenticity and coming out of the spiritual closet, this is where we're going to take you today. Just right from the get-go, we're going to take you down one of the deepest rabbit holes yet. And then everything will be up from there.
It is the hallway. It's the door to 1,000 doors.
It is the door to 1,000 doors. And I heard Matthias de Stefano say once, which I loved, that true spirituality never actually answers a question. It just opens the door to another question.
That's why
Right.
it's the door to the hallway of 1,000 doors.
That's why I loved that
And
analogy.
each door.
You guys are going to be blessed with hearing all of his beautiful analogies if you stick with us. In fact, we thought about doing a coffee table book of spiritual analogies. Tell us. Tell us what you think about that
I don't think I was a part of
idea.
that conversation, but okay.
Yes, you were. You just don't remember.
I
So
don't
tell
remember
us what you think about that. Would
Okay.
you like to see a coffee? You know,
We're
they
not
have those
doing that.
coffee table books. Those
Wrong.
coffee table books of
False.
of spiritual analogies. Anyway, so I think a very good place to start here, where we can ground people into the idea of thoughts create your reality, or as you will hear us say,
Sure.
it's all inside of you, which could be taken in so many ways, but we're going to stick with it being in reference to thoughts create your reality. That was a concept to me that I was totally unfamiliar with. In fact, if I would have listened to this conversation 6 years ago in my life, I probably would have said, you guys are nuts. But I didn't have the framework or the frame of reference that I do now. So you may think we're nuts, but it may still intrigue you. You may still
I don't
find
think
yourself
that at all.
going down roads that you start to ask questions, which
I
is
don't-
really all we're here to do is to have you ask yourself some questions.
Sure. I don't think that at all. I don't think they're going to think it's nuts.
Hey, we're open to whatever, right?
True.
Okay. All right. So let's ground this someplace really solid and structural. And that will be your experience, right? Experience, they say, is anecdotal, but to me, experience is the most true thing. The most real thing is because if it's actually happened, that means it's possible for other people to experience this. So start with the night that you woke up, you paralyzed. If you watched, the first episode, you know about Scott's story and suffering from Guillain-Barré and being completely paralyzed. So in that experience, which you could probably say was a spiritual awakening in some sorts for you, going through that process, which left you open, right? You couldn't be busy doing anything.
Well, let's start earlier than that. So, like a lot of us, I've always was searching for something more. What is this all about type of thing? My mom was a very spiritual person. She was also deemed crazy by a lot of people. So it was a fine line. How far spiritual do you go before people start thinking, oh, wow, you better stay away from him. He's a bit, lost his brain. And where do you get the answers then that you're looking for? Because if you live in a reality of cynicism and people being skeptical and judgmental of your beliefs, then where do you go for answers?
Right.
So
Right.
you could do the religious route, and that wasn't me. I didn't believe that there was this guy in the sky. I believe that there was a power in all of us. And I always wanted to hear stories that I now have to tell people. I always wanted the stories so I could learn from people. I could learn from their experiences. So it's kind of ironic. Now here I am telling all of my experiences and my stories, because they are firsthand. But it originally came, all these things came to me because I asked for them. So you may be out there right now asking the questions that I asked 30, 40 years ago. And I'm basically taking all of that time, the last 40 years of my life, trying to understand this power that I had, because I knew I had some type of power. Even as a little kid, I knew I could change outcomes. Mm-hmm. So I had what I called opposite day, where when I was little, and when I say little, I was probably around anywhere from 5 to 10 years old, where, when you would have those, what do they call those? Not a premonition, but when you're in a moment and you've lived that moment.
Deja vu, baby.
Deja vu. And I would have that a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, it was so strange. Like, oh, I've been here before. And then I would try to see if I could change it, but have the event follow me, the memory follow me. And that was kind of fun to play with. So I would always, I remember getting hurt. I cut my leg. And I remember saying to myself, actually out loud, this isn't going to hurt, this isn't going to hurt, this isn't going to hurt. And then the doctor would, do the stitches or whatever, and it hurt. So immediately I would say, oh, because it's opposite day, this is going to hurt, this is going to hurt, this is going to hurt. And then the pain wouldn't be there. It was really kind of crazy. So I just adapted, right? So I always knew that
and I think as kids we are connected.
Well, because we're
to that.
closest to God.
Right.
Right.
We know that that's possible
We're
because
closest
we
to
haven't had
source.
the world and all of our beliefs
Yes.
tell us it's not.
Because we're talked out of it.
Yeah.
So in other words, we're learned out of it.
Yeah.
We come into this life, and as as a baby, you are the sponge for the first 7 years of your life to take in all of the stuff from everybody outside of you.
Right.
Right. So there is that, and I always said, well, if you want to find the person that's closest to God or spirit or source, it's a baby.
Sure.
Because that's where they came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Until the day you die and
Yeah.
then it starts over,
Yeah.
right? So I always had these questions of what is this stuff? What is, what is life, all that, instead of just going through it. You know what I mean? I wanted to learn. I wanted to know things. And, you're surrounded with around people that may or may not think that way. And, again, having a mother who was, kind of deemed crazy. But I knew she had something. I knew that she was right about things. So it was then taking what she knew to a more practical thing of how do I then use this in my life. And there were two lives that I lived. There were the lives of going the spiritual route and becoming bigger than Scott could be. And then there was Scott, the character who loved to make money and struggled to make money and struggled in all aspects. And it was, what road am I following this month? You know what I mean? So to the moment where I had always asked this question of what we are and, how can we do this? What am I seeing? What am I experiencing? Where is it? Where is
I think
all
that's
this?
questions. Well, anyone that's watching this, I'm sure can relate to.
Sure.
asking
Where
those
is all this?
questions.
Where is this,
Like my favorite one was, where does space end and where does it begin? Like that doesn't
And is
make
this it?
sense. Like how does
is
space
this space?
end and begin?
Yeah,
Right.
like what I am experiencing
Yeah.
and seeing right now. Like I can't see a tree right now
Right.
because there's not a tree in here. So do trees exist?
Right.
Are they there?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in, I'm in this place called Florida right now, but am I in Florida? Where's Florida at?
What does Florida mean?
What does
right?
it even mean? It
So,
just
okay,
sounds.
let's
okay,
get to the
anyway,
question.
okay.
Yeah.
That's going down a whole nother
I
road.
have to really,
Leash.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a leash. I'm a dog on a leash.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes you got to choke up. It's
I
like, it's like Murphy.
Yeah.
So here I find myself striving for all these things and having a 1.5-year-old son and a house, a mortgage, car payments, a business. And they were all kind of weights that got laid on top of me because I thought this is what you do, right? To become happy, I accumulate all this experience and stuff. And then surely I'm going to be happy one day,
Right.
And here I am laying in this hospital bed thinking, well, this is interesting. I remember my sister-in-law came in and she gave me some books of Deepak and stuff. And listen, I read them all, man. I love Deepak. I loved, Dr. Wayne Dyer. I would listen to them all the time. And Tony Robbins, all that. And here I am, after reading all that stuff, laying in a hospital bed, unable to move. Like, so this is where this got me, right? And I remember really getting angry at it. Whatever that was, it's like, I'm really pissed at you because you've led me out to dry here.
Right.
I believed in this. I believed in you. I believed what Deepak talked about. I believed what Tony Robbins would say. I believed. And here I am. And one night, I woke up laying in that bed. I woke up and it was a voice. And again, it's the moment that is so impactful in your life. You remember it like yesterday. And I remember being kind of not startled awake, but startled. And this thought, but it came in the way of a voice. And it said, what if it's all inside you? So what if the world that you think you exist in is really just inside your mind? And when your eyes are looking out into this world that you think you exist in, what actually is happening is your eyes are just looking back inside your mind. So when your eyes are closed, that's the real world, because the real world doesn't exist. And when your eyes are open, you are looking at a screen inside your mind. So eyes aren't looking out, they're looking in.
So let me pause it right there, just so people can sit with that for a minute, because I remember the first time, actually, I recall I heard you say this, and it was before we had actually met in person. It was before, that Indian Wells workshop, and we were both in a Dr. Joe Dispenza Facebook group with, 10,000 or 50,000 other people, I'm not sure. And I had gone to a few workshops at that point, and so I for me, my journey was different than yours in that I was
already on that road.
Right.
I was already on the journey.
Yeah. I didn't know spiritual concepts.
Right.
I knew I believed in some sort of God. I believed in God. And I didn't think he was a dude in the sky that was like, oh, I'm going to punish you and send you to hell for forever. I definitely didn't know that. I just didn't know what. Right. And so when that book, when I read Dr. Joe's book, You Are the Placebo and Thoughts Are Things, and the placebo effect, right? That your thoughts can actually have an effect on your reality, not even going as deep as we're taking you today, but just that your thoughts affect your reality. Something inside me just knew this to be true. And so after, following him for a year, then going to a couple workshops, I saw Scott post in the group. I think it was the first 2 times you had ever posted them. I actually have screenshots. I have screenshots of me commenting on your posts, which are so funny. But he said that he told the story of Brad once, and then a couple days later in the group he told the story of what you guys just heard. And by that time I'd been meditating for almost a year, so I knew about quieting your mind, about space, about potentially what is real, what is not. And then I heard him say this. And so I remember sitting with it and being like, okay, what is this actually? Because I'm a very practical person. I'm a very okay, how does this apply every day? What does it matter? If it's not real, what does it matter in my everyday life? And so I remember sitting with that, reading that and sitting with that for a minute and going, okay, when my eyes are open, I'm actually looking into my mind. Mm-hmm. When my eyes are closed, I'm actually looking at the truth of reality, because there is no, what we say a lot, there is no subjective reality, or I screwed that up. There is no objective reality. There is only subjective reality. And, there's many other people that can take you down this rabbit hole as well. Don Hoffman is my favorite, as you know. Mm-hmm. He comes from a different background even than you. So you come from the experiential, spiritual wisdoms. He comes from a very scientific perspective, although experiential. Mm-hmm. And he will tell you from the research and the mathematics that they have proven there is 0% chance.
There's
0% chance that we see reality as it is. Mm-hmm. 0%. Yep. Not just, okay, maybe we get some things off because our brain can't take that much in.
Well,
none of it's right.
But the experience, and again, this kind of, it's the hallway of 1,000 doors.
Yeah.
Because there's a door there that says, okay, so how do we shape our reality? And we shape our reality by the filters, or as I call it, the boardroom, of what we put in place that we allow in. So if there is, I always look at it as, I love watching Gold Rush because I love machines.
You don't watch Gold Rush much anymore.
Not anymore, but I did.
Yeah.
And because I love machines and I love, I love working. I love dirt. I love all that stuff. And how they, go through the process of screening for gold is they just take a bunch of screens, and the first screen takes all the big giant rocks out, and then the smaller rocks can fall through, and then there's another screen that's a little bit smaller, and that takes the next size rock out. And you have to do it in stages, because if you do it all at once, the smaller rocks will stick to the big rocks. So you have to shake them, you have to vibrate them. So you need vibration. And then you have a series of screens. And then at the end, the last screen is the screen that catches everything but the gold. And they do it. In reality, that's how I see what we experience.
Which will go in the coffee table book.
Which
right?
will, sure. Because you are just filtering your experience. Your experience is the gold at the end. And it is solely based on the screens that are in place that is above the gold, in front of the gold, in front, right? So if you have all these screens in front of you, it's catching all the joy, because your attention isn't on joy. It's catching all the wealth. It's catching all of the abundance. It's catching all the physical, goodness, and then all that's left is lack and physical condition,
right,
and strife and problems. That's the gold that comes through.
Right.
And because we're trained to filter out this stuff, either by, our parents or whatever we were involved with in our first 7 years.
Well, I want to give two examples.
That makes sense, right?
Yes, totally. And that is a different rabbit hole.
It is.
That the first 7 years,
show.
which we're going to talk about. So I want to try to keep it here as much as possible, but I want to give two examples of this.
Okay.
To have people understand what that means. Like, okay, your mind is, your eyes are not looking out to a world that exists.
Well, can I go in further into that?
Let me give these two examples, and then you can go further into that, okay?
Okay.
Because I think these will help ground this in a little bit more, too. So let me start with asking you guys the question. Have you ever, before I give these two examples, have you ever had a moment in your life, and sit and think about this, where you were looking for something, and you looked everywhere, and you're like, and then all of a sudden it shows up, and you're like, I swear to God, I looked there, and it was not there, right? Sure. Everybody has had that example.
Everyone's done the keys.
So think about that as I go into these two examples. So I'm going to give you a recent example of what happened to me. And I know this stuff, and it still surprises me. The other day, I was in a frantic state. I was in my sympathetic nervous system. I'm in a kind of a panicky, kind of like low-key frustrated and annoyed, and just, in some dense emotions, some dense chemicals in my body. And I'm trying to make a comment in a Facebook group, and it's in a Facebook group that for my coach, because I have a business coach. And I'm looking for a comment that someone had done, and I can't find it. And I'm like, I literally just read it earlier this morning, and it's gone. It's not there. And I'm in this sort of panic, like I need to find it because I know what she said was important, and I can't find it. It's gone. It's not there. I've looked through everything. Okay. Then I walk away. I go and do something else. I get into a calmer state. I comment to the woman, and I said, I'm trying to find your thing, but it's not there. And listen, I'm just really frustrated this morning. I'm feeling very frustrated. I'm feeling defeated. I'm feeling all these things. And, she replies back a little bit later, and she was like, here's a repeat of my comment, but, and kind of walked me off the cliff, as I do with, the people that I coach. It's, what a really good coach does is understand that when we are in that panic state, we will literally change our reality. So when I was calm and I read that, guess what happened? Well, I found her earlier comment. Her earlier comment appeared. The question is, was it there? Was it not? I'm not sure. But whatever lens I was seeing through in that moment changed my reality so that I couldn't see it. And then I want to give you one other really good, perfect example. So one of the women in my Authentic Life Blueprint course, she's been with me for a year. She's heard Scott talk about this. She's heard me talk about it. So, and not just talk about it, she's integrated this into her life.
Absolutely
for the last
integrated
year, right?
into it.
So she's really understood, oh my gosh, I'm the creator of my reality. And so she told us on the call the other day, there was an email that came in, and she just saw the subject line. She knew it was an email that it could get her into a really bad place, right?
A pickle.
So she said, I know because I create my reality. I am not going to open up this email until I'm in a really good state, until I'm in a good frequency,
Energetic state.
until I'm in an energetic state. So what we mean by that is higher emotional state.
Higher
That's
emotional.
it. Just
Yeah.
higher emotions. I'm not going to open that until I feel higher emotions, until I feel happier, until I feel freer, until I feel whatever. I will not open that email. So she waited. I think she might have waited for like a day. Maybe it wasn't that long, but she knew the moment she was in those higher emotions, she said, okay, I'm going to open up this email. She opened up the email, and then of course it wasn't bad like she thought it was. It matched her vibration. Now the question I posed to her was, did those words in that email exist until you opened that email up?
Right. So
did they? Answer this, please. Guru Scott. Did the words on the email exist until the moment she opened them and saw them in her eyes?
Well, all right. So let me tackle this question with another way to put it.
Perfect.
All the words existed. All the words
Love
existed.
That.
All the words
Love
did.
that.
So the words that, oh my God, you just won $1 million existed. Oh my God, I have been searching for you all my life, and now I have found you. This is the love of your life. That existed. It was her divorce attorney saying, we've lost everything.
Right.
It was someone saying, you have a terminal disease.
Yeah.
Every single thing exists. Now, what dictates what words actually showed up? And like you said, she wanted to make sure that she was in the energy, but that's true. But let's go back to the filters. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the screens. Let's go back to the gold mine.
Should we take it all the way back to the double slit even?
We will.
Okay.
We will. But let's first just look at it as far as we are sorting rocks.
We're sorting rocks.
And she has the filters in place that she learned in her first 7 years by the people that she was around, the environment, things that were posed to her as a child that was going to school and wanted to be a part of a group of friends and wanted to fit in. And, you know, Sally Ann Mosley, whoever that is, I just want her to like me because she's really the coolest. Mm. All of these things affect the words that showed up for her. Mm-hmm. All those experiences. So if you have the perfect experience, it's congratulations, you just won the lottery. Or congratulations, I finally found you, the love of your life. I'm here and I'm on my way to you. But the other things exist too. So what filters, what screens are in place to sort through all of the words? Because she probably has a belief, well, of course, I'm not going to get an email saying that I won the lottery. Of course, I'm not going to get an email from somebody that I don't know saying that, surprise, here I am, the love of your life, because it doesn't come that easy. Money doesn't come that easy. Love, everlasting love doesn't come that easy. Happiness doesn't come that easy. Joy doesn't come that easy. But what does come easy is somebody taking something away from me. Or I've heard enough people talk about, cancer and COVID and all of these things that we have to watch out for because they're going to come and get us like the boogeyman.
Just fearful. Just
right? Because that's what fear is.
Yeah.
So if fear is a rock sorter, is a screen, then all you're going to get is fear that's going to fall through those screens. So this really is the act of replacing your filters to screen out the fear.
Right.
To not the fear, you want it to be, fear are the giant big rocks that nobody wants. And the joy and the love and the happiness is the gold that gets left behind at the bottom. That's ultimately really good, what we want.
That was really good.
Well, you're fucking right. It's goddamn good. So here I am laying in this bed. And when I heard that voice, and it was a voice, and the thing that I'm the most proud of is I trusted it. It was a voice and not Scott.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
I was so grateful for that I hung on to this. And for the next 20 years, I searched for the meaning of that. And ultimately what happened is that night at 2:00 in the morning when that question was asked, that door was opened. And the door that was opened was the door to the hallway of 1,000 doors. And now I have all these doors that I got the key to the first one. So now I need to go search for what this is. And of course you want to know everything right away. And it's like, you know, like feeding a steak to a baby. You can't have it. I mean, come on, you know, dude, you know,
I know
you're
we
not
all
ready.
say, everyone says, I want to have that experience, or I want to know that, or I want to, and I'm like, no, you don't.
No,
you wouldn't
because
be able to handle it.
And I mean, listen, I would drive people crazy because when people would come over to my house and I would ask, well, what if it's all inside you? And they would just kind of, and I would say this to my mom, and it would be great because people would look at me like I had 6 heads, and they'd be like, "What are you fucking talking about? Like, dude, get a hold of yourself." Right. And that's where I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of shame.
So
I was afraid. I had a mom who was in a mental asylum, so obviously, you know, whoa. I got to be careful where I tread here. I got to be careful what door I open because I don't want to be in the mental asylum. You know, and. But that question just kept coming and coming and coming. And then the first door that mattered was when I saw What the Bleep Do We Know? Because there I saw Fred Allen Wolf. His exact words were, there is nothing out there. The out there is just in here. That was the voice.
So with that being said, if you haven't read What the Bleep, I highly recommend you watch it. I mean,
well, to watch it, watch it over and over again.
Yeah, like a cultish kind of whatever. But I think now that quantum physics is really prominent and more people are going down this path, and you look at it from a different lens. So what I want to introduce here is, and I'll have you discuss it, or I'll have us discuss it, but it's called the double slit experiment. And I have
that's what Fred Allen Wolf did, and he talked about it.
Right. So I have to say that my mom actually showed me the double slit experiment, the cartoon. Watch the cartoon one, Dr. Quantum. It's called on YouTube. She actually showed me that, like, before I ever met you, before I'd ever even, I think it was like early on when her and I first started meditating together. And I remember her showing it to me. And at the time I'm like, okay, yeah. Like you watch it but you just kind of gloss over it. You're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, whatever that means. Right. And to this day, I watch that video and it hits me in a different way.
Sure.
I mean, you can watch that video every day for the rest of your life because the greatest of scientists will tell you the double slit is what eludes them always to this day.
Because it's the onion.
They don't understand.
Yeah, it's the onion. You keep peeling and peeling and peeling. Yeah. The more that you can handle, the more that you can take in, the older you get, the more that you can eat the steak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't eat a steak until you're 5.
Yes.
Right? Because as a baby, you can't. You can't chew it. You don't have the teeth, right?
Yeah.
Same thing here.
You're going to hear it.
You're going to hear it in different ways along your experience.
Yeah. I mean, we know this from listening to Dr. Joe endlessly.
But here's the thing.
Hearing something different from him.
This is where I will take kind of a different path with that is the reason I can hear Dr. Joe, or the reason I could hear Tony Robbins, or the reason I could hear Fred Allen Wolf, who really is one of my favorites, is because they are me. Yeah. They're a part of me. And that doesn't exist for you. Mm-hmm. It exists for me. Mm-hmm. You're in my experience. Mm-hmm. So for 20 years, I tried to figure this thing out with it's all inside me. And I got the walls. I got the clock on the wall. I got the TV in the corner. I got all of it thinking, okay, so I am just looking at static objects like a picture that are in my mind. I get it. But what are the people? Their real life, their movement, their breathing, their walking, their talking. So how can that be me? And it brought me 20 years to the place where it was my third workshop. front row. The lights turn down. Dr. Joe's ready to do one of the meditations, and my lights go out. And then suddenly I'm in, as they say, the void, the blackness, the darkness. And I was separate from me. I wasn't Scott in the moment. I was observing as Scott, but I wasn't in this Scott's reality. I was in something massive, universal. And there I am, and just the wonder of it all. I'm so in my heart. And to know what it feels like to be in your heart, I knew then what it feels like to be in your heart, right? That was my first real step into my heart, where I'm in it. I'm just feeling this love for myself, just love. It was just warm water, warm water. And I'm watching this little ball of light, and it's just moving like a golf ball. It's just kind of moving back and forth, and it's pulsing. It's not there, then it's there. It's green, then it's blue, then it's opaque, then it's white, and it just lands in front of my face. And I'm looking at it like, what is that? And my grandmother's face shows up, and right then, I knew that was my answer. It's like that voice that told me that day 20 years prior was there again saying, here's your answer. We are all just little balls of light, and you are taking your impression of what your grandmother would be. And your grandmother is love. She is acceptance. She is warmth. She is safety. And this is what she looks like. She has these eyes. She has these facial features. This is so I can give you an experience, God speaking, I can give you an experience of grandmother and what grandmother represents, all of those things. And I just put it on a little ball of energy that can hold that impression of your grandmother. And one day, your grandmother will not be there. And who do you put in place of her on that same little ball of light? And you only have so many balls of light. And you are just transferring your impression or your person onto that ball of light. Because there's a ball of light that represents not the good things. Right? There represents the teacher that's mean. And then maybe that turns into a boss that's mean. But it's just a ball of light. And it's only to experience what it feels like to live the human experience. That was the moment. And listen, when it gets me now, it hits me now in my heart, because when I came out of that, I remember who I was sitting next to. I was
Mr.
bawling.
Brett Anderson.
I was bawling my eyes out. I didn't know who he was. And I remember looking up and just thinking, like, what the fuck just happened to me? And there was Dr. Joe, and he just looked at me and he's like, wow. And I'm like, fucking wow. And I remember saying to Brett, this guy who's sitting next to me, I was just in heaven. I was just in heaven. I was a part of heaven, and heaven isn't this place. Heaven is me. And I just moved into that space of love. And, my grandmother. And I remember, like, those 4 days I could not talk. Everything was so bright and vivid and perfect. The food tasted so amazing. I remember Amy, was there with Amy. And normally I would go, this is in Mexico, all-inclusive resort. I would go and get, the ribs, and I would get, the jerk chicken. And I would just munge all that stuff. And I'm eating salads and broccoli. And
you really don't need
so
much
crazy
at those.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
Where's the chips at?
You're getting your energy from a completely different place than
because
food.
But I was letting new information get through my screens. I changed my filters. I didn't change them. Love changed them. Being in the room with all those people that were all experiencing love. And I remember even the love that I had for somebody when I would get up from the meditation after having that experience and looking for people that I had literally just met and had these long, these big conversations with, and looking for them and running over to them and lifting them up and hugging them and being like, did you see it? Did you experience that? Did you? Because I did. And my life is never the same. And suddenly all the people in that room became me. They were me. They were all cells. Like, I'm just a cell in a body.
And
they're cells in a body.
Clear this up for people, because when Scott used to say that to me, they're all me, I would be like, well, that's a fucking ego.
That's ego.
Like, Jesus, you're telling me that I don't exist and you're the only one. And so what I want to make very clear so you can understand what we're saying is that when he says me, he doesn't mean me, Scott, the identity of Scott. He means the source, God, the universe, whatever you call it, that which is you, me, everyone, and everything
100%.
we see. We are not separate from anyone. So when he says me, you are in me, I'm creating this, he does not mean Scott, the identity. He means the same thing that's in you.
Oh,
the same
we're
thing
all
that's
gods.
in me.
We're all cells.
That's it.
We're just cells in a body, but we're beings in God's body.
As opposed to a religious framework that tells you there is this entity separate
Who
from
is
you.
a God that you pray to. I'm not telling you I'm your God. I am not your God.
Right. That is
I am not your guru. I'm
male,
not your God. Yeah.
That is
you
like,
are a God.
This male figure that's going to judge you if you are not a good person and if you do bad things.
Yes.
And you are separate. You will never be
So
that.
what is it? So ultimately, it boils down to this. This is really just how simple it is. The pain that you feel is you. The love that you feel is you. The beautiful people that are in your life, they are you. The beautiful experiences that you live in your life, they are you. The traumatic experiences that you live in life, they are you, because you are the creator of all of them.
Yes. I got to share this really fast.
You gonna poop?
You're
gonna fart?
I may.
You're gonna shart?
Those who know me know that may come at one point in this podcast. No, I just have to share something really funny in terms of, us talking about, and this is not to like make fun of religion, because listen, we all have a space and a place. It is all perfect.
Belief. It's belief, right?
But my daughter, her and I were having this long conversation one night about all of these things, and she's brilliant because she asks so many questions, which I love. But we were talking about religion and about this man in the sky that my daughter is like probably a sort of a feminist already at 13 years old, but she's like, Mom, it is so cringe when people say him. Like, how cringy is that? Like, seriously, the thing that created everything is this dude up in the sky. Like, it's so cringy. I'm like, it really is cringy.
Yeah.
Isn't that just cringy?
Well, that's her experience.
Yeah.
I
had to share that from the mouths of babes.
So what if that's what it all is? What does that all mean? To kind of go somewhere with this conversation
and bring it to a wrap, because
and
we're
to
at 44 minutes.
Yeah. Is that in doing this podcast and in doing what we do and coach people to better their lives, to expand their being, right? I am a firm believer if you are watching this, then something. You're here because you're learning, you're awakening, and we're stepping out of this very low density world into things that are so much more energetic and so much more creative. I am a 100% believer that I create my reality. We all create our reality in what we put our attention on, and we've heard that. But the saying of that is different than the action of that, and the different believing it is different than living it. They're totally two separate things, and it's going down the hallway of 1,000 doors and opening the doors just to get the keys to the next doors, and it's little by little by little learning when we want to know the answer now.
Yeah.
And I love it when people say, so you're telling me that you I'm creating my reality, but you don't understand. You don't know what he did to me. You don't know what she did to me. And to sit there and say, okay, so this is what you're here to find out. That why did you put that person over one of your little balls of light to experience what you experience, good, bad, and different?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? And let's look at it that way, and let's start to uncover that, because ultimately, what do we want? We want to be happy. We want to be loved. We want to have love. We want to feel what love is. We want to feel that we are God. We want to feel what it feels like to be God. And as a person, as an individual that has felt that energy of God run through me, which I wish I could remember it as vividly as it hit me. It was like being hit by a train. I want to remember that in the worst way. It doesn't make me special in any way, because we all have that in us. We just have to. Right. We have to have the filters set right. The filters were set right that day. Yeah. The filters were set in my heart, and I was ready. And I asked for it. Okay, this is where we have to. Let's go here. And man, when that lightning bolt came, I knew there is no going back. Yeah. To believing that we are not the creators of our reality. Right. So now it was, I just have to get Scott on board and understand the filters that are in place, and the filters that I don't want, I need to change them, because I don't want joy to be taken out. Yeah. I want fear to be taken out. I don't want love to be taken out. I don't want happiness to be taken out. I want judgment to be taken out. And I think that's what we're here for, is to have this conversation, to tell the stories of the little balls of light, my grandmother showing up, and the impact that it had on me in that moment. And that I remember that, the voice that came when I was laying in that bed unable to move. It's to share this experience regardless if I'm judged or not, because I was terrified to be judged.
Sure, we all are. It's
terrified
coming out
judged.
Of the spiritual closet. So let's, since we're at 48 minutes here.
Yes, dear.
Let's bring this to, again, another grounding.
Okay.
And so to sort of bring this all home, back to the beginning.
Land the balloon back to the ground.
Land the balloon. So I think, my intention always is to give some people some practical things, because we can talk up in the clouds and the ethers all day long, but why does it really matter? We live in bodies, we experience, why does it matter, right? So I think that you said something really important that I want to really, really make it a point for everybody to understand. There is a difference. There's two totally different things between, okay, I get it, Scott and Em. I get it. My thoughts create my reality. I get that. Okay. It's a whole different thing to live that every single day. That's when it becomes a practice. That's when you're integration. That's when you're actually living what you're knowing. Instead of just knowing what you're knowing, you're living what you're knowing. And that is a process that does not happen overnight. You don't get the full steak in one bite.
20-year hallway.
It's a process, which is why Scott and I have created what we have created in our programs. We each only have one program, and the very basis and solid foundation that we start with is the double slit, is understanding that your thoughts create your reality. And I think I'll tell you, from us coaching Beyond Limits together and then doing our own things, that the number one thing people walked away with was them saying, I truly, truly grasp it and live it now. I truly live it, and I see it in my everyday life. So some things for people that are listening to this to walk away with. Number one, I think check out the double slit. Go watch that on YouTube, Dr. Quantum. It's a 5-minute video. Watch it over and over and over again. You can never watch it too much. I would also invite you to watch to look up Don Hoffman. He's much more meatier than we are and more based in science, but he will open even more doors. He's saying the same thing we're saying in just a different way, but he approaches it. If you have a more analytical mind and a more scientific mind, you'll like that. So those are some things you can check out. I think the last thing really as a practice for you to do every single day is what I did when I first heard him say this. And I started asking myself throughout the day and even in my meditations, okay, if my eyes are just looking back into my mind, that means I can change things. That means in this moment, I'm not a victim. That means that if I'm having the filter of fear, I can actually change that filter. I can actually go, okay, I don't want the fear and I don't want this ball of light to show up as this person. So I'm going to go do something to reset that filter. Whether that is going and taking a walk, whether that is going and watching something funny. You can check out Rule Number 6 group on Facebook. It's my go-to. Rule Number 6 on Facebook. It is the best group ever because you will laugh your ass off. And laughter is direct connection to the divine. It's a direct connection
to the heart.
Yeah.
It is. And that is ultimately what you're doing is you are getting into your heart. And like, again, when this information came to me, I was laying in a bed unable to move. So if this is all inside me, like you're saying, then surely I can walk again.
Yeah.
I just have to see it.
Absolutely.
I have to feel it. I have to hear it. What does it sound like to be walking again? What does it feel like to be walking again? What does it look like to be standing up instead of sitting or laying in a bed or sitting in a wheelchair? What is that? That's what I need to pay attention to.
So you changed the filter from fear of I will never be able to walk again to
I'll be honest, I never had that filter.
Yeah.
The filter of fear, I will never walk again.
Yeah.
It was never in the tool shed.
Yeah.
It was never there. I knew.
So you had to change the filter from where you were.
I'm an underdog.
Yeah.
I'm Seabiscuit. I can move through unsurmountable odds. Yeah. Unsurmountable odds. And I will not be defined by a diagnosis that someone else came up with. It's my own.
There you go, people.
So you have to have your own diagnosis.
Yeah. It takes that determination and
it has that determination
really, to make up your own mind instead of letting other people make your mind up for you. So I think that's a really good place to end it. Some things to walk away with. Start thinking every day.
Surely.
Start asking yourself. Set your alarm for every hour. Ask yourself, okay, what am I choosing to put my attention on?
What am I choosing to see right now?
What filter am I looking through? Just asking yourself those questions.
Yeah.
Will be
That's being in the
huge.
hallway.
Yeah.
That's being in the hallway.
Go check out the Double Slit. Go check out Don Hoffman. If you're crazy enough, join us again for the next podcast. If you're crazy enough, we may take you down some more deep rabbit holes.
I think, because, you can watch football. You can watch auto racing.
Listen, I'm starting to get back into watching football again. I think sports is such a good way to actually understand this.
Yeah.
If we don't get too emotionally involved.
And, that's the proof for me that all the years being a Philadelphia Eagles fan and living and dying by them winning or losing, and then going down this road and completely forgetting about football. And the moment I completely forgot about football, the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. And I remember being in the living room with you and Chet and Aiden and even Cody, and watching them win this thing. It was down to the final minutes, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I really did it. I really did it. I am the Philadelphia Eagles. I am the Super Bowl. And all I needed to do was step away from it, the need for them to win, and they won. And that's why I remember in the next day standing in front of Dr. Joe and saying, I am the Super Bowl, Mr. Dispenza.
And he said, way to stay humble.
Way to be humble.
Okay, people, this is what we do. We say we're going to end, and then we don't.
No,
we just keep talking.
Right now.
So we're actually going to end. Thank you for tuning in again.
Yes.
If you liked it, please remember to support our tiny little channel
and
here.
Subscribe.
Subscribe when this is on the audio platforms.
And dare to take this
review.
further. Dare to take this further.
Yeah, practice it. That's what we care about. Don't just listen to our nonsense. Go apply and practice. That's what we're interested in. And, click the little bell. It will notify you. We're going to do these every single week. We also invite you to comment the topics that you want to hear us cover. I mean, like I've said,
Oh yeah, I love that.
we have had so many experiences in our life in all different areas, and this is really
And
our
challenges.
outlet. And challenges. And this is
That's
our
what
outlet
we're here for.
to share those,
Yeah.
to share experience and our nonsense.
Yeah.
We'll have fun, but we want to give you guys some value, or else, this is
And maybe we love your
worthless.
questions so much we bring you on the show.
There you go. Who will be the first one? So yeah, comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you want to hear more of, and we'll start integrating those into the episodes. So until next week, we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.